welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton, and today we're going to talk with the group Peninsula READS, and it's a great story. This organization helps with literacy, and one of the people who has been helped is now a volunteer, and she's here as well. Let me introduce you to Paula Bazemore with the organization, and Kim Chi Lee. Ms. Lee came from South Vietnam, tell me when? 1980?
1980.
And when you got here, you said you spoke
very little English. Like, how are you doing?
You learned actually in the refugee camp just a few words.
Yes.
And you came here and were resettled here, and that had to be very scary.
Yes, I did.
And what happened? How did you get connected with Peninsula READS?
My sponsor, who is director at Peninsula READS. Mm-hmm.
And she helped you, and you began taking classes in a small group, or was it just you they were working with?
It was only the tutor and me.
And how long did that take?
Take about several months.
And you came here, you were around 40. You had been an accountant before when you were in South Vietnam. And Peninsula READS was beginning of a lot of education for you when you got here.
Yes.
So after you learned to read, they encouraged you to do what?
They encouraged me to take adult education. And after a while, my teacher encouraged me to go to GED class. And I passed GED class. And after that, my sponsor said I need to go to college to take some course in the business, and took the course. I passed the course, and then I went to Thomas Nelson, and after that I went to CNU, and then I had a job accountant in the city Newport News with title technician, accounting technician.
So you did a lot of the payroll work there.
Yeah, I did a lot of payroll work for welfare people and also for employees.
So, I mean, what accounting is kind of the same thing wherever you are. There's numbers, and you know what to do with the numbers, but the communication and the understanding had to be a huge hurdle.
Yes, I did many problems. But very fortunate, I had a very good supervisor and bureau chief who volunteered to help me with all the English problems.
And now you give back to Peninsula READS, is that right?
Yes, I volunteer with get back with everywhere need me to volunteer.
You are a person who gives back. Yeah,
I give back everything, and like in CNU. I did give to them for the scholarship in CNU too. I did everywhere they need me.
That's wonderful.
Small to big in my for me can handle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Paula, how does this organization has been around for a long time, and see, I didn't know. I mean, I knew it had been, but I always think of it as Americans with low literacy. I didn't realize, when did you all begin to take on more of the English as a second language?
Well, you know, Peninsula READS just had to evolve over time. We've been in existence on the peninsula for 46 years, and it started out with basic literacy, you know, the one that most people are familiar with. And we also were known at that time as the Peninsula Literacy Council.
That's what I remember.
Exactly,
even. Yeah.
right. And so as things went along, our population changed. That's when we began to add the ESOL or ESOL program to what we offered. And now we also offer computer classes, we offer math tutoring, we will begin to offer financial literacy programs and health literacy programs as well. Because health literacy is one of the emerging areas that is starting to impact, low-level literacy is starting to impact. Because when you are sick and you go to the doctor's office, the first thing they want you to do is fill out a form.
A big form.
Exactly.
It's so complicated
And unless
now.
you take someone with you, you don't have the ability to fill out the form. So we want to try to help, at least with people getting in the door. You know, they may have a minor problem, but if they're turned away or reluctant to go because they know that got that form facing them, then they don't seek the health care that they need, and eventually it becomes a major problem and they end up in an emergency situation. So we want to try to combat that on the front end and make it easier for them to get the health care that they need.
Wow. Wow, that really is a big job. And I think of, you know, when immigrants come here not speaking English, kids get a lot of help through the school system.
Exactly.
And sometimes, and you know, when you're younger, you adapt more quickly. You learn more quickly, maybe, than somebody my age. But adults, you know, that's a big gap. Like,
Right.
I think the kids used to try to teach the parents
Right,
sometimes,
right.
and it helps to have an organization.
Exactly, and we're kind of like the organization that bridges the gap, because if they go to GED, if they have some English skills or reading skills, and they go to GED and they aren't able to pass the assessment to go into the GED program, then they turn to us, because we are the only organization on the peninsula that will take the lowest levels of literacy and help them. And then we can get them up to the levels that they need to go back to the adult education program and enroll in the GED and get their GED.
So it's a really, you know, it's a gap.
Exactly.
A gap filler.
Right.
Now, how much of your clientele population is low-level literacy, and how much is immigrant population or people who speak other languages?
Well, it does. Anybody can be low level. So
Well,
we
that's
refer
true.
to our programs as basic literacy, and those are for the native-born
Okay.
people. And then for the ESOL, or English for speakers of other languages, because a lot of people call it ESL.
Right, right.
But for us, we find that many of the people that come to us speak more than one language, and English may be their third or fourth language. So we refer to them as ESOL learners. We have a slightly bigger population of ESOL learners than we do of basic literacy learners.
Well, I think Hampton, especially, there's a lot of cultures that are coming here, and a lot of, you know, people resettling family members, people connected with the military. I mean, an awful lot.
Right. We are a very transient community. We have many different influences or factors that play into that. So.
And we have a lot of churches that sponsor people, and, you know.
Right.
Well, so, gee whiz, I can't imagine. I mean, you have someone like Miss Lee, who obviously very educated in Vietnamese speaking, but having to make that transition and almost start all over again, really, to get up to the GED level, when I'm sure you had the education in your home country, but in order to do your job, even with the numbers, you need to know a good bit of English. How hard was that? You must be a very hard worker.
Yes, very hard worker. Yeah, and my supervisor and my bureaucrat, also my director, know I work very, very, very hard. And at that time, in the probation, I'm not improved with the English, but my supervisor, my bureaucrat and director asked somebody, "How do you think about her? Get her out or keep her in?" Get her out or keep her in.
Oh my goodness.
And then they say, "Oh, we need a good accounting. We need to keep her." And my supervisor and my bureaucrat volunteer to help me with the English problem. And anytime I write the letter sent out, my supervisor or my bureaucrat correct before I send out.
That's good to have somebody
Yeah.
look behind you.
And
Everybody needs
everybody
that.
needs that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need that, and I've been a writer for 30 years.
Yeah,
You
but
can't ever.
and at that time, my supervisor emphasized about this. He say, "Oh, if we see out, something like he will lose something because," and the bureaucrat say, "We need a good accounting. Why we don't keep her?" Hard to find a good accounting. Many people know English. We can help her that.
That is good that you had that very strong base coming in, so
Yeah.
they were able to work with you.
See-
Was it hard to ask for help, or when you got here and you couldn't really communicate, was it, you knew you needed help?
Yeah, really need. Yeah.
I think, is it hard, Paula, sometimes people who have grown up in this country and have sort of learned to cope in different ways with a lack of literacy and maybe are embarrassed about it. Is it hard to come forward and ask for help?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And those people, I mean, they're amazing to me. You know, when they finally decide for whatever reason that they want to get the help to learn how to read, and they just embrace it. And most of them usually just kind of take off. There's something that motivates them to come in, and we operate on a learner-centric program. We don't set goals for the people, they set their own goals.
Okay.
And so some of them are work-related goals, some of them are personal goals. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, we just want them to want to help them achieve whatever goal it is that they have set. But you're right, those that are from this country, you know, have lived there all their life, have adapted. And so sometimes it's a shock to the family to find out that the person that they've known as a parent or a grandparent, you know, cousin or something like that, doesn't have the ability to read or has limited ability to read.
Well, and sometimes I suspect, you know, schools didn't used to be as good at diagnosing some of the learning disabilities as they are now. I mean, we know so much more, and people are diagnosed early, and you can kind of help them through it. Things like undiagnosed dyslexia or other difficulties may have turned people off and halted their progress. And now maybe we're better at figuring out how to help teach people.
And some things like that have come to light because of the tutoring that they've received through us. You know, we're not equipped to handle those types of things, but we have had tutors that have come to our coordinators and say, you know, I think so-and-so may have a learning problem or something, or may have dyslexia or something like that. And, you know, and so they begin to talk about the conversation. And then, you know, we take the appropriate action based on that conversation. But you're right, back then, you know, there
Special
wasn't all of that.
education, yeah, the services
Right.
didn't exist as much, and people didn't understand as much, I think, as we do now about how people learn and how people see.
Right.
Things like that.
Yeah. Now, one thing I want to say, Mrs. Lee had shared with me before that not only did Peninsula READS help her with her English, learning to speak English, but we helped her with learning how to live in America. She told me about her tutor taking her to the grocery store, because when you think about it, grocery stores in other countries don't look anything like the grocery stores do in the United States.
I didn't think about that. Sometimes they're very small markets,
Exactly.
not the large, you know.
Right. Public transportation. Most other countries have better public transportation system than we do, but it's different, you know, so they have to learn how to navigate a public transportation system as well. So she has shared with me about how it wasn't just learning how to speak English, but just learning how to adapt and cope were some of the things that we helped her with too. That's
wonderful. Now, if I'm sitting at home, maybe hearing this interview and thinking, I want to help. How could I do that? Do you need volunteers?
Of course.
That was a setup question. Every nonprofit needs volunteers.
Exactly, right. We need volunteers to help us with tutoring, but we also need volunteers to help us in our outreach efforts, because we need to get the word out that we are here in the community and willing to help and, you know, wanting to help. We also need volunteers that can help us with special events and volunteers that can help us in our office. Right now, we could really use a volunteer receptionist or admin person, you know, at our office.
And that might be a little less intimidating. Some people might be nervous about being in that teaching, coaching role. But you guys do training.
Right. Oh, yes. Yes.
Prepare people. You don't just throw them out there.
Exactly. Yes. And we provide ongoing training or access to ongoing training after they go through our training program.
Okay. Yeah. Now, Paula, how are you funded?
Oh, my goodness. We are funded primarily by the United Way, and we get a grant also from the City of Newport News. And any other funding that we receive is through our efforts, meaning that the grants that we write, direct donations and things like that. And so that is one of the tremendous ways that anyone could help us right now, is to provide financial support to the organization.
Are you still growing? I mean, it's hard to believe, I guess. Now, refugees, I understand. People who come here and don't speak the language, that one seems easy, but it seems so hard to believe sometimes that in today's society, people are still growing up without the ability to read or do math or balance a checkbook.
Right. Well, believe it or not, there are over 30,000 residents on the peninsula alone with low-level literacy skills.
Wow.
Today.
That's
right.
Yeah,
it's hard to
really
believe that number is still so high. So, yes, I mean, we'll continue to grow. Exactly.
We need to let them know that you have services.
Right.
And then we need the volunteers and the funding to serve them,
Exactly, right. And we can customize programs for employers because many of them, I'm sure, especially in manufacturing, landscaping, industries that have repetitive types of things, like you learn a skill one time and then you just continue to do it.
Like Ms. Lee, for example, worked on an assembly line for a while before you got the full language skills to do the job you were trained for.
Right.
Yes.
And it's very likely that that a lot of our employers in the area have employees that have low-level literacy skills. And so if they can reach out to us, they can reach out to us through our website with peninsulareads.com or at 757-283-5776. We can come out and talk with you and discuss the possibility of offering our services to their employees, possibly at the work site. But we have to be careful about that because not everyone is comfortable that they might be exposed. That this what they've been hiding all of these years is now coming to light. So they may feel more comfortable doing it on an off-site location, but whichever way would work best is something that we can work with.
And especially people who maybe did come from another country, there's a little less stigma with coming forward because you're literate, you're just not literate in this language necessarily.
Right.
And it's a big transition, I would think, to learn that.
It is.
Okay, so we're going to recap, and you guys help people with low-level literacy who didn't speak English as a first language, who need some communications help, but also that living in America and functioning kind of piece.
Exactly.
You could use some volunteers.
Right.
You could use some money.
Yes.
And outreach. I mean, let people know that this service is out there. So if any of us know, or maybe just suspect, that someone could use the assistance, let them know about the program.
Right. Do you know someone that never has their glasses when it comes time to read something? Could be a clue.
That's a clue. Or if I don't quite know how to spell this, can you, those little prompting.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming, Paula, and thank you, Ms. Lee, and good luck. We appreciate you giving back to the community. You're a wonderful volunteer, and that should inspire the rest of us, I think, to help out as well.
Yeah, that's my goal, because I think all people need to help each other and build up with the good way and learn some new thing and express out for all people to learn. And when we together, we can share many things, and we share all the charity and loving, or everything make people happy.
Thank you. You are a wonderful inspiration, and so are you, Paula. But I hope that we can take a page out of Miss Lee's book, if I can use page when we're talking about literacy, and be that lifelong learner. Don't be afraid to step forward. Go learn something new each time and have a wonderful time in life, and give back to the community, as she says. Help out and be a volunteer somewhere as well. Thanks for watching.